proceedings, and the recording would have started by now. And just for your benefit before we get into the meeting proper, if there's any issues at all, just look to the guy on your left, and he will ensure that you go outside okay if there's any issues. We hope there's not going to be. But the way it works, we introduce everybody, and there's a cedrant called. So I'll call for that now to Julie, please. Julie.
Thank you, and good morning, members. Provost Jim Todd.
Yeah.
Councillor Stephen Canning.
Present, thanks, Julie.
Thanks. Councillor Ellen Friel.
I'm here, Julie, thanks.
Councillor John McFadden.
I'm here, thank you.
Councillor John McGee.
Yep.
Councillor Elaine Cowan.
Here.
Councillor Maureen Mackay.
Present, Julie, thanks.
Thank you. Councillor David Richardson.
Present, Julie.
Councillor James Adams. I have an apology from Councillor Lillian Jones. Councillor Ian Linton.
Yeah.
Councillor Douglas Reid.
Yeah.
Councillor Graham Barton.
Yep.
Councillor Graham Boyd.
Here, Julie, thank you.
Councillor Barry Douglas.
Here, Julie.
Councillor Neil Ingram.
Here, thanks, Julie.
Councillor Peter Maben.
Present, thank you.
Councillor Claire Maitland.
Here.
Councillor Beverly Clark.
Here.
Councillor Sally Cogley.
Here.
Councillor Kevin McGregor.
Here, thank you.
Councillor Linda Holland.
Here, thanks, Julie.
I have an apology from Deputy Provost Claire Leach. Councillor William Lennox.
Morning, here.
Councillor Alison Simmons.
Yeah.
Councillor Billy Crawford.
Yeah.
Councillor June Kyle.
Present.
Councillor Jim McMahon.
Here, Julie, thanks.
Councillor Neil Watts.
I'm here, Julie, thank you.
Okay, I have an apology from Councillor Drew Filson. Councillor Jennifer Hogg.
Yes, I'm here, thank you.
And Councillor Elaine Stewart.
Yep, I'm here, thanks, Julie.
Thank you. Thanks, Provost.
Thanks, Julie. Folks, we're really delighted to welcome Darvel Regeneration team here today. I'm going to ask their representative to come up to the podium up here, please. Well, the team last month absolutely honoured to receive the King's Award for Voluntary Services. Now, this is the equivalent of an MBE and a personal note. It's the highest award that a volunteer organisation can receive in the UK. So absolutely good for them. There was only 10 awards made to Scottish charities, and DART was only one in Ayrshire and Arran. That's a phenomenal achievement. Absolutely well-deserved award for the outstanding work these guys and lasses are doing in Darvel. And it's the aim's about regenerating the community spirit and civic pride. It's been a very, very busy year for Darvel. 150th anniversary celebrations, and there was a small matter of being the highest accolade of a football club in that pyramid system that beat a team from up in the northeast. And did I mention Sunday, Kelly, resulting? So football plays a big part, and the club is an integral part of Darvel. Now, the initiatives and all of the stuff that goes on within Darvel is incredible, and I would advise everyone that hasn't been, please go up to the square and see what the work that they've done in the square. It's absolutely beautiful. That will be the central point. They've already had markets, cycling events. It's going to be a great place to go and enjoy the weather. No matter the weather, there's a big hood up in the square now. It's a big shelter. So they will have a great time there. It's an accolade that's well deserved, and everybody here at East Ayrshire Council would like to wish you all the very best. And we've got a couple of there's a certificate here that we'd like you to accept. And it's civic recognition presented to Darvel Area Regeneration Team, and it's on receiving the King's Award for Voluntary Service.
Thank you.
So congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much for all those kind words. We're absolutely blown away to receive the King's Award, and this today is just yet another pat on the back, if you like, for all the team and their hard work. Wild Dart do pull off some amazing things, and we work really hard. We're also part of a really good community spirit. There are so many great organisations in Darvel that either support us, work with us, and you just don't find that everywhere, you know, and that's part of the reason why we're so successful, because we're supported so well by the community and all the other organisations. Dart originally started 2018, Steve. Yep. So I remember walking into the town hall the first night it was on, and I had been to the previous community council meeting, and I thought, right, this thing about Dart, I'll go and see what this is all about. Rocks up into the upper hall in the town hall, if you know where that is, and there's our Steve Gillis sitting, nobody else, not another soul. And I never knew Steve or any of the guys at all, because I'm an interloper, I don't come originally from Darvel. And I remember thinking, what have I let myself in for? And here we are, 4+ years down the line, and we look at what we've come from, a wee room with 10 people in it that had not a clue what they were doing, setting up something like the corner. And we got the building taken down and COVID hit. And we battled and we battled and we battled from that point on to get this project finished. Even we were like, oh, really, is it ever going to get there? But it did. And we're so very, very proud of it, because the whole Darvel community has embraced the corner, and they use it by themselves. We use it for our markets and stuff, and it's raised such an extra level of community spirit. And that's why we do what we do. We do it for Darvel, we do it for the community. So thank you to all the team. There is only a small number of us here today, but the team are amazing, and I couldn't want to wish to work for a better volunteer group. And this is just yet another, as I say, pat on the back. But we're not done yet, so watch this space. Thank you. Oh my goodness.
So thank you very much for coming down. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to see what else you're going to do. So it's up to David. Get the group down.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Right, thanks everyone. Thoroughly deserved for that group. It's amazing the work that all these community groups do in their areas, and it's great to recognise the recognition that they had this year. Some remarks. It was an honour and a privilege to represent East Ayrshire Council. First of all, at the memorial at the old Kilmarnock Academy building, which is now centre stage, Fiona and the team really do honour all those that have fallen, past pupils and masters. That was on Thursday. On Friday, we went to Brodie Engineering. We had Jerry Hilferty and the team honour those that gave their lives who worked in the railway works. During both wars. It was great to see the workforce remembering all those that had fallen. On the Saturday, we all mustered at Catrin or Cotton Memorial at the top of the hill, and the village looked great in the sunshine. A large turnout paid their respects. You'd be amazed at the amount of military, serving military from Cotton that were there to pay their respects at a beautiful memorial. And Sunday again, a large turnout at Kilmarnock Cenotaph to remember the fallen. Then on to Rugby Park to remember the players from both world wars who gave the ultimate sacrifice. And then on to Cumnock Memorial, where again a large turnout paid their respects. Our communities really do make sure that all of our sons and daughters who fought and died will never be forgotten. We will remember them. I was invited along to the exhibition at Rugby Park Museum to see all of the old Kelly strips throughout the years, and it was great to see my favourite Kelly strip ever that I called the Brian Rodman top. That was the strip that I joined the Royal Navy with, and the club put on a great display. A recognition of the Ayrshire area support team. We went to the townhouse in Irvine to join in the celebrations to recognise the dedication and commitment from individuals who on a voluntary basis look after our most vulnerable children. The message that was loud and clear from everyone, that was the safety of the children that always comes first. This is the folk that volunteer for the children's panel. The Starry Night event at Dean Castle, it was wonderful to see the Dean Castle estate in all its glory. Absolutely amazing light show, and the children really enjoyed meeting Santa, but I think the Grinch was more popular. So well done to everyone who organised that event. And finally, the donations so far to MND. I'd like to thank everyone who's donated to MND over the last year. We've managed to raise over £8,000 so far for the charity. So if you haven't done so already, please check out the EAB auction if you'd like to bid on any of the items, some of them quite rare. If there's any Queen aficionados, there's an amazing collection of Queen memorabilia, and all of the proceeds will go to MND. Or if you've not decided to not send a Christmas card this year, you can make a donation to the charity. It'd be greatly appreciated. And on that point, I think we need to have a special mention for Craig Young, who's went through a really bad time, and it's his wife's funeral today. Some of the senior officers are at the funeral at this time. So we really feel for Craig at this sad, sad time. It's a horrible disease, and hopefully in a few years to come, we can find a cure. And it would be remiss to miss out our Deputy Provost, who just got married in Rome today. So that's why Claire's not here. So good luck to Claire and Kevin on their marriage. Thanks very much, folks. We're going to carry on, and we're going to ask for the declarations of interest, if there are any. Councillor Boyd.
Thanks, Provost. Item 6, the Education Bill. Taking advice from David Mitchell, I've had discussions with Professor Haywood over she's the author of the report. It's more for transparency, but I'm declaring it, and that was the advice from David. So,
no, thanks for that. Thank you. Any further declarations? None online, Julie? No. Okay.
Just
Ian,
obviously,
sorry.
we're going on to discuss the Galleon refurbishment. So, as the chair, on behalf of the trustees, I think non-pecuniary interest will be taking part in the debate.
Yeah, but that goes for trustees that represent the council on that body. Is that okay, folks? Thank you. We're on to business now, and it's the previous minutes, the meeting of the 26th of October, pages 4 to 11, and I move as a correct record. And I'll thank you very much, Councillor Linton. Folks, any questions? Thank you. We're going on to item 3, which is the 6-monthly update in Cabinet activity, and we'll bring in the leader.
Thanks, Provost. The paper's in front for members to read. I'll just point out just a couple of, 2 or 3 of the highlights. Obviously, the place-based investment programme, we heard from Cabinet last week further information on that, and we continue to roll out really great programmes within to help some of our voluntary organisations and sustain some of the many local projects of length and breadth of East Ayrshire. Over £750,000 there to those kind of ventures. In terms of employability activity, this council sees employability as key to eradicating poverty, and it's been great to see the rollout of the decision made a couple of years ago in terms of to invest significantly in apprenticeships, and we see many of these young people coming through our doors, including, as we mentioned here, in terms of SL33, through the No One Left Behind programme, some of the people that were excluded getting back onto taking some of the apprenticeships, modern apprenticeships, so they're getting back onto full apprenticeships within our own housing asset services, and it was great to meet some of these individuals to see how much of a change that makes to these young people's lives and their families. Never enough money for roads and pavements, but through the budget last year we were able to supplement a wee bit of the roads capital programme, and it's good to see that's been spent already. We heard last week the new programme was announced at the Shared Services Committee, and I'd advise all members to have a wee look at that just to see. I think there's a lot of programmes, new programmes on all the 9 wards right across East Ayrshire. We continue to work to help invest in community wealth building funding, and we're hearing some of the results from shared services, just how much of an impact that's making right across Ayrshire, and indeed in our own part of East Ayrshire's benefiting from that strategy carried out by all the 3 local authorities. And it was interesting to see there was actually a map available that could actually pinpoint exactly during our presentation last week where all that money had came from and where we're spending some of our resources. And again, I would it's there online for members. I'm sure David McDowell and his staff will show you some of the details of that, because it's really quite interesting to see where we spend our money and where some of our businesses benefit from that spend. In terms of food and catering support and the cost of living, that's continues to be a main issue for us. I think those of us that attend the community planning partnership heard from the third sector to hear just how low the food ladders are, particularly this time of year, and the demand is increasing. I was hearing that from a visit with the Deputy Chief Executive to our recovery project to hear how that's just affecting some of the most vulnerable members of our communities. And I would just, say to members and to encourage others to help out your local food ladder where you can. And I'd like to thank Kevin. I know he stands regularly out at Rugby Park with the Kelly Trust, but I know that that's just the many people that go to Rugby Park. Just I know that they're out there every Saturday and every time Kelly's playing, and they're doing a good job to get food distributed back to our communities as well. But particularly this time of year, just make a plea for that. In terms of women's health, there's been significant new developments there, and I was pleased to see that recently, in terms of women's health policy, signing up to the endometriosis friendly employer scheme. And I know how hard my colleague Claire Maitland has worked on this, and I know this was endorsed by the entire council, and there was a complete focus on those suffering from endometriosis and osteoporosis, recognising just how this is affecting people, and there's just been some real interesting information in that, just to see how many people are suffering as a consequence of this illness. Continue to support our tenancies and our tenants. In terms of, we heard a recent cabinet just the rollout of the capital programme with a view to look at sustainability and green projects and look at tackling increasing energy costs. We, as we mentioned here, there's over £2 million worth of investment in that area. We also look at sustainability of tenancies. We know that it's a difficult area with so many people, with that have chaotic backgrounds, that we're able to not fail these people and help them, achieve a 100% sustainability rate where we can, and we'll continue to get closer and closer to that 100% figure, and that's good to see. Because the last thing we need to see, people and with chaotic lifestyles, and we know that there's so many people that have got challenges out there, and our neighbourhood coaches and our housing service are helping these people to have sustainable, proper roof over their head, and that's so important. In terms of active schools, we continue to see significant sums of money being invested there, over 600,000 there, and we see in terms of, as we say in paragraph 50, that we're almost reaching 50% of our school communities are participating in structured sports programmes. We could do better. We've always pushed to do better, and I think that's important. It's great to see us invest in excellence, and we continue. We saw that at the Talented Athlete Programme event recently through that we helped to fund as well. But it's important that we get all children involved in active sports programmes, and tackle issues like obesity, which sadly, this authority, because of socio-economic factors, is a big issue for our communities. In terms of the capital, although the capital programme has been hit badly because of circumstances out with the council's control, but we continue to refurbish and improve our schools, and it's good to see the progress in St Sophia's up in Galston, and we continue to work with our schools to, with the Climate Change Investment Fund and the Clean Green Schools Fund to support decarbonisation of our schools and to tackle soaring energy costs, that was just and to tackle the issues of climate change which have been in the news and our young people are so vocal about, and we're supporting a lot of these ideas that are coming from our young people. And it was great to see again the Young People's Conference on climate change in this chamber, where we heard from our young people and all they're doing, and we would support everything to protect their future and all the work they're doing in our schools. One day the mascot and all. In terms of the core project, as with the Ayrshire Growth Deal, we continue to look at that and adapt the core project. So is that I think one of our main ambitions for all the local members is to make sure that our tenants and the residents benefit from this project in the form of the investment to new technologies, to make sure that it actually tackles, helps attack high fuel bills, and looks at insulation programmes and how can we can make our Scot greener and more warmer for our tenants and residents, and looking to use those technologies to that end. And again, similarly, not just in our schools but in our local businesses, we help. We've been helping to support them through the Net Zero Support Grant to help local businesses decarbonise their businesses and tackle the climate change at a local level. So that's a whistle-stop tour of some of the things we've been doing in Cabinet, and highlight some of the challenges for us to come as the financial settlement gets more and more challenging. But I'd like to thank all members of the council for supporting the work that we're doing, and commend that report to you, Provost.
Thanks very much, Leader. I'm going to open it out, folks. Any questions? Councillor Richardson.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Provost. It's just the wording for my own clarity, page 16, point 40, investment in housing, where it says, since 2010, our house building programme has had a significant impact on communities across East Ayrshire, delivering 586 new homes, which is great news. And with the grant investment from the Scottish Government, we will continue to work towards our target of delivering 110,000 affordable homes by 2032. Is that conflating a Scottish Government target but using the word our, which would indicate it's an East Ayrshire target? Because 110,000 homes for East Ayrshire, I mean, I think the capital project, Joe would have probably a cardiac arrest if he thought that East Ayrshire were planning and providing 110,000 affordable homes.
Thanks, Dave. It's Scottish Government. I mean, if we're 110,000, we'd have to, but we'd be building a few schools as well.
Aye.
And,
No, but it's just the way that paragraph reads.
I know, no, it's clumsily that, and I think we'll change that accordingly, Dave.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Chair.
Right, thanks for that. Councillor Mackay.
Thank you very much, Provost. It's just to say, because I feel obliged to say it on every occasion, my ongoing concerns in relation to schools in Northwest Kilmarnock and what the future holds for them. And just to say, I, and I'm sure my other two colleagues in Northwest Kilmarnock will be absolutely out there and fighting for them to get what is required. Almost 1,000 children affected, and to express, of course, our extreme disappointment and concern that we were not successful in getting LEAP money to invest in our schools in Northwest Kilmarnock from ScotGov.
Okay, leader, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's in terms of, we've had a huge programme. I think it's been over, it must be well over 30 or so new schools or refurbished schools in the last 10, 15 years. And I share the disappointment we weren't able to obtain the LEAP funding from the government. We will continue to press for North West, Stewarton and the Doon Valley campus. I mean, these still remain absolutely within our sights and want to deliver for these communities because we know that investment is required, and we wouldn't want anybody. You want the best education facilities that we can for our young people.
Thank you. Councillor McGregor.
Thanks, Provost. Through you, just to thank Councillor Reid for his comments in paragraph 57 regarding the EnerFit building standards at St Sophia's in Galston. I had the privilege on Tuesday with the Deputy Chief Executive to visit the site, and the officers that were there really went through just what the differences were between this and other models, and just painted out a really good detailed picture of what that should achieve, both in the short and the long term. And I think it really painted a positive picture. And I think, Deputy Chief Executive, it was well worth being brought up to speed on that. So just to say, it's a very exciting project taking place up there in Galston, and thanks very much for raising that in the report. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Provost. Just to come back on the back of Councillor Mackay's comments, and it was disappointing for the North West of Kilmarnock not to receive the Scottish Government funding for the primary school campus, and having had input into achieving repairs, to the Fabrica buildings at Onthank and Hillhead, and obviously we've got Mount Carmel up there as well. It would just my point would be that when we do speak to the management teams, the teaching management teams at the 3 primary schools in the North West, I know that parent councils are going to have input as well. I would hope that the council could look favourably on those 3 schools, because we do have money in the capital budget for the school estate, and the fact that there is a need up there in the North West. So it's just to come in the back of Councillor Mackay's comments, and I know that Councillor Cowan as well. Just to hope that the council can take a favourable view and do what we can up in the North West for those 3 primaries, because they are in need of a wee bit of investment.
Okay, thank you. Leader.
Thanks. No, absolutely. But just to remind members, we have been investing in the past in the Cares Nursery, and and the extension onto Unthank some time ago. But our ambition for the campuses up there, remains for the Hillhead, Unthank, and Mount Carmel. With the expanding population up there and the ever increasing role, it continues to be a priority for us to invest in that area.
Okay, thank you. Members, can't see any. Oh, Councillor McMahon.
Thanks, Provost. And just to pick up on some of the comments that Councillor Reid has made and run about that housing investment when we spoke at the papers and the drive for 100% sustainability with our tenants. It's something that the focus is on, a particular focus on that, run about homelessness. I congratulate the team on the achievements so far. I'd like to mention it, but I miss me note as a trauma champion, the rollout of the NHS programme through the housing team and looking to roll that out through the full authority eventually to make everybody trauma aware. Really encouraged that through these difficult times that we've still set up our high standards as far as what we can achieve over HIP programme and the SHIP programme as well. Moving on to the core, no as per we first imagined what the core would look like, but it certainly has a part to play going forward as we move to educate our students and train our students for today's market, the green technologies that we do. I think it's really crucial that the kids and our students are educated to a standard where when they're coming out that education complex, they're going straight into really well-paid, high-earning jobs.
Okay, thanks for that. Members, we're going to carry on. There's no further questions. Okay, thank you. On to item 4 now, and this is the Cabinet Committee minutes. Bring in the leader.
Moves a correct record, Provost.
Second that, Provost.
Thank you very much. Members, open out to questions. Okay, thank you. There's just a matter arising from the Cabinet of 8th of November, and that's the Employee Awards Ceremony proposal. And Council is asked to appoint elected members to participate on the awards ceremony judging panel. So it's up to yourselves where today, or you get back to Julie with the names for that.
I think we'll come back. We'll maybe take it through the sounding board, Provost, and have a discussion on it.
Yep, happy with that. Members, we'll take that through the sounding board. Yep, agreed. Thank you very much. And we're on to item 5 now, which is the review of Health and Social Care Integration Scheme. And we'll ask Craig to introduce this paper. Craig.
Thank you, Provost, and good morning, members. So this is a pretty brief update report just in terms of progress against the review of the integration scheme, which Council agreed we should be undertaken in conjunction with NHS Ayrshire and Arran. The report also confirms that the review has been undertaken close liaison with both North and South Ayrshire councils. The 3 integration schemes, it makes perfect sense to have them all aligned to each other, so actually undertaking the 3 reviews together is the right thing to do, and that is progressing. So as members will be aware, the Health and Social Care Integration Scheme is the legal agreement between the Council and the NHS Board and sets out the governance arrangements and the financial arrangements for how health and social care should be integrated across the local area. There is a requirement to review it on a 5-yearly basis, and as I said at the start, it was agreed that we would undertake this review by Council on the 29th of June 2023. In terms of the current position, the process for undertaking the review and the practical arrangements now been confirmed by the 3 council chief executives and the chief executive of NHS Ayrshire and Arran. In terms of my role, my colleagues' roles, in terms of IJB chief officers, we are not parties to the integration scheme, but we remain sort of professional advisors in there to make sure that we understand and we can feed in some practical feedback into that process as well. Programme board's been established and a number of work streams put in place as well. Sharing arrangements around about the work streams have been shared out across each of the constituent members, and people are taking forward the review just in terms of sharing the workload. That's been taken forward over the last number of months. The report talks about the programme board in terms of the membership of there and the co-chairing of it between Eddie, our Chief Executive, and Claire Burden, the Chief Executive of NHS Ayrshire and Arran. The membership of the board includes all of the Chief Executives, the Chief Officers, the NHS Director of Transformation and Sustainability, and we've secured a Scottish Government representative to also be part of that group, just in terms of any changes and how that might land with ministers in terms of the ultimate approval of the scheme. So that work has been progressing. The workstream groups have been meeting separately around about it. The details of the workstreams are contained in the report as well, 5 separate workstreams sitting there. In terms of next steps, I think what we'd agreed when we brought the report to Council back in June was we'd hope to come back at this time of year with an update report in terms of where we are, in terms of concluding it. I think what we've seen quite quickly is a number of areas where further more detailed consideration is required. That has now been taken forward. That's particularly true of the resources workstream in terms of finances, etc., which is probably to be anticipated. Joe McLaughlin is the chair of that workstream. I know there's a lot of work getting taken forward there, and a number of subgroups also convened to look at some of the specific detail. So once the overall review and all the engagement's been concluded, a further report would then come back to Council, to NHS Board, round about any proposed changes in there, and ultimately find its way on to Ministers for approval. The implications at the end of the report will be similar to what we reported the last time round. There is a bit of a focus in there in terms of the risk implications, in terms of some of the stuff that we started to identify through a review of census data, etc., in terms of demographic changes and where we go into the future. Probably important even just to capture at this stage within any reviews of integration scheme what that then starts to look and feel like, and make sure that we are future-proofing anything that we're putting in place. In terms of the recommendations, members are asked to note the progress of the review at this point, to agree that further reports will be provided to Council as the review progresses. We'd anticipate that being early in the next calendar year, so probably January, February time, and otherwise to note the contents of the report. I'm happy to take any questions, Provost.
Thanks very much, Craig. Well done to you and the team. Members, any questions? Leader.
Just like to thank Craig and the team for all the hard work. I think our IGB continues to be one of the highlighted as one of the most successful in Scotland. No without our challenges like everybody else, but I'd just like to thank the team for their work.
Yeah, thanks. No other questions. We'll carry on. Thank you. Thanks, Craig. Item 6, the consultation on the Education Bill provisions, and I'll bring in Linda for this.
Good morning, members. Members, this is merely a citing of a proposed entry on the consultation for the Education Bill provisions that's currently live and standing until the 18th of December 2023. In the recommendations, we're asking for approval of the content of the response from East Ayrshire Council as part of the wider consultation to inform the development of the educational bill that will be introduced later in this parliamentary year. I would ask you to note the content of the previous more far-reaching report from myself in regards to education reform in its wider sense, and clearly this is only a minor part of all of that, members. Colleagues, in the background section, I refer back to my previous report and speak about the Professor Muir report, which was published in March 22, and it made 21 key recommendations, remembering that all 4 reports between them made 71 recommendations, but under Ken Muir's propositions, the recommendations fell under 4 key headings, members, and they're listed for you there today. In respect of a renewed vision for Scottish education, a new qualifications and assessment body, I understand to be named Qualifications Scotland, a new national agency for Scottish education, and indeed a renewed vision for how inspection works in our schools and ECCs, and indeed further establishments, members. In terms of a renewed vision, Professor Muir called for a national discussion on education that then took place. That was led by Professors Campbell and Harris and is referred to in my previous report on education reform. All of these recommendations, members, at this stage are with the Scottish Government for action and agreement as to recommendations. So there's none of these at this point in time, members, are in any way set in stone. They are all at a stage of being brought together, shall we say, and assimilated in any way that can make sense of the 71 recommendations that I've already discussed with you. Members, in paragraph 5, there is a proposition from Professor Muir to call for the creation of a new Qualifications Scotland body. He recommended that this new body should be an executive non-departmental public body. The responsibility for the design and delivery of qualifications, the operation and certification of examinations, and the awarding of certificates would fall to this new body. Members, in paragraph 6, I refer to the National Agency for Scottish Education, and in this part here, clearly, members, there was a clear move away from an Education Scotland that's currently responsible for giving advice and indeed inspecting on its own advice. So in Professor Muir's report, again in my previous report, he outlined the need to separate these two functions of Education Scotland and create both an advice and support body and indeed, members, a scrutiny body, which leads me on to paragraph 7. Members, in paragraph 7, the report clearly highlighted the need for an independent new inspectorate body and highlighted concerns as to the ongoing duty of Education Scotland to both issue advice and inspect it. Subsequent recommendations were that a new inspection body should be established with its independence enshrined in legislation. Further recommendations were made as to inspectorial scope, I do like these big reports, the inspectorial scope of this particular body, and clearly the need for governance to reflect such independence of any new body created. So members, in reference to the current consultation, the consultation comprises, it is live for anyone to enter into as individuals, as groups, as schools, and many of our schools and individuals have already done so. It comprises of 12 key questions, and a draft response to these questions is supplied in Appendix 1 for your approval today. The consultation can be found, there is a hyperlink in that appendix, members. Apologies, some words appear to have dropped off there. Paragraph 9, for further context to the appendix, questions 1 to 6 apply to the creation of the new qualifications body only, and questions 7 to 12 apply to the creation of an independent inspectorate for Scotland. In paragraph 10, I speak about the activity in regards to this particular consultation in respect of East Ayrshire Council. This has been advertised for those of you that have seen my weekly update to the entire education service. This has been going out for weeks. It has also been covered at our Parent Council Steering Group. And again, I'm really grateful to our Chair of the Parent Council Steering Group, John Semple, for assimilating our response as a Parent Council through the National Parent Forum for Scotland. And John is actually Vice Chair of that particular organisation, and we benefit from his expertise in that particular space. And clearly, members, our young people have been involved through the national discussion piece and indeed via the Hayward review itself. So members, in terms of implications today, it is only a consultation. This is not new policy. This is only a consultation on the recommendations that came out. There are thousands of people taking part in the consultation as we speak, and I merely present this to you for your discussion and further consideration. Thank you, members. Happy to take any further questions.
Thanks, Linda. Members, we're going to open it up. Councillor Boyd.
Thank you, Provost. Also, thank you, Linda. I'm going to propose a few small amendments, but first I would like to make a couple of comments. The submission mentions memory regurgitation in reference to exams in question 1. I completely refute that statement and object to its inclusion. Exams rarely ask for facts from memory to be stated. It's now using knowledge to solve problems and apply real-life situations, very common. For instance, many questions start with explain, justify, give reasons. In my case, physics, use an analogy to explain physics situation. I've actually got various recent SQA exams with me. I'm prepared to let MD after the meeting have a look at these across a wide range of subjects. At previous council, there was a question made about exams being for only a small percentage. I'll take you back to standard grade. Every pupil sat general and then either sat foundation or credit, very inclusive and very democratic. But no, Curriculum for Excellence had to tear that up. Standard grade wasn't perfect, but it's much better than we have at present. What we have now, National 5 and National 4 in 4th year. National 4 with no exam at all, internally assessed, creating additional teacher workload along with bureaucratic procedures and, of course, pressure putting teachers for pupils to pass. With such coursework, it's impossible to determine unfairly distributed levels of support from teachers, parents and tutors. And of course, in future, artificial intelligence, we're already at a stage where you can write an essay with AI in any given subject, and it's difficult to detect plagiarism. Take you back to COVID, grade inflation. There was no exams during COVID. With the exam results, we experienced grade inflation. The marks now are back to normal. What did we have? Teacher and internal assessment. In terms of this paper, with the consultation, there hasn't seemed to be much consultation, or compared to the recent council tax reform paper, members had briefing sessions. We don't seem to have any briefing sessions. It's very rushed. Also, previous council, there was a question asked about parental views in removing exams, and we were told that there'd be great response from parents. Well, the parent council at the secondary school I attend almost every meeting. This has never been discussed, and the parent steering group, I was aware it was brought up last week, but having spoke to a member of the group, I wasn't aware of any great discussion at it. So I'm rather concerned about how this paper is presented. I've got 3 small amendments to make in it, and we'll come to that, but obviously you want to have the discussion first. Thank you, Provost.
Thank you. Members, any further comments? Councillor McGee.
It was just to ask regarding the, I think it was paragraph 10, did we have any further update for the Tuesday meeting, Ken, to maybe elaborate on that discussion? If that was...
I'm not sure what's being referred to, Councillor McGee, in terms of the paragraph 10. It's an open consultation that anyone of their own free will can take part in. So...
No, sorry, I maybe didn't put the question across too well, but I was just wondering, was there at the Tuesday meeting, was there the discussion took place? What was the kind of feeling of those involved? I'm wondering if that was possible to kind of
yeah, and I mean,
elaborate.
despite Councillor Boyd's experiences clearly at the own parent council, the expectation is that heads will be taking their own parent councils through this as well. So again, we can't control, this is an empowerment agenda, we can't control who's submitting to what is a public consultation. Certainly the feel in the room in terms of answering your question directly, Councillor McGee, was very much around about supporting what's best for the young people. In terms of John's involvement with the National Parent Forum for Scotland. This is not that this particular response is not the Parent Council's response. They would do that through their own schools, Councillor McGee. So I'm afraid in Councillor Boyd's case, if that's not been the case in that secondary school, that's up to that Parent Council chair to bring that into that particular space. We can't control. They're not under Education Directorate. Parent Councils are independent bodies and can consult or not consult as they wish. And in respect of any further consultation here, it is a wide public consultation that's actually taking part in this regard. This is not a council-led consultation.
Yep, thanks for that. Thank you. Councillor Mackay.
Oh, thank you very much, Provost. I think perhaps just to build on Councillor McGee's question, my understanding was that at that meeting of the parent steering group, there were actually only 10 parent councils represented. In actual fact, there were more apologies in for that meeting from school parent councils than there was actual attendance, which would mean that I would have real concerns about how much and how wide the understanding is, and how much actual sign up there is to accepting what the proposals are. And I think if I heard correctly, I heard the Linda put forward that the chair of the steering group, who is also vice chair of the National Forum, had actually endorsed our proposals. Now, I had spent at Cabinet quite a lot of time asking questions on what had actually taken place, what the level of representation had been at that parent council steering group, and clearly didn't know the information that I now know, but was really asking when Cabinet considered this paper for that sense of how much buy-in and how universal was this as an understanding. And I do have to say that for me, the fact that there were only 10 parent councils present, then that doesn't feel that that's hugely representative. And I am concerned with those opening remarks that the National Parent Council is endorsing the view that is put forward in this paper, if I understood that correctly. Thank you, Provost.
Thanks, Councillor Mackay. Just for clarity, the National Parent Forum for Scotland's own submission will be made. That's certainly not our position paper here. This paper here is only for our council. I was mandated by the Chief Executive to bring something to council. This is the only place that this particular response to the consultation will be heard. In regards to the parent council attendance, generally speaking, that's around about 35, but we took the meeting, we usually do it face to face, but we took the meeting into SL33 to allow some of the parent council chairs who hadn't seen SL33 to attend. We didn't offer a hybrid that night because part of the meeting itself was a tour of SL33, and all we have done through the minutes, Councillor Mackay, is we can only promote the consultation with parent councils. They are completely independent of the Education Authority and at free will to undertake their own consultations. So merely that night, myself and John as chair merely prompted those who were there, and it's reflected in the minute that went straight out after the meeting to all of the chairs, even those who weren't there, to take part. So all we can do is encourage to take part. We're not allowed to mandate a council or a school or any other body to undertake compulsory consultation. So I'm sorry if I didn't make that clear at the start, but no, the MPFS will put their own piece in, as will any parent councils that want to undertake their own piece, and that there wouldn't be a place for a parent council piece that represents all of East Ayrshire, because again, those are independently mandated through their own parent council constitutions, Councillor Mackay. So apologies on my part if that's what came across at the start, but these are all independent. The only place that this has come is to Cabinet, clearly, Councillor Mackay, as you correctly point out, and indeed to here. And yes, I am sorry, but the numbers that particular night, it's generally incredibly well attended. We're one of the best attended parent council forums actually across Scotland, but in that particular evening it was a bit dreich, and I think quite a lot of people weren't making the journey into Kilmarnock, particularly those from further away, Councillor Mackay, that given that there was no alternative. So I hope that helps in that space.
Thanks, Linda. Councillor Watts.
Thank you, Provost. Just for a matter of transparency, I think as we're dealing and talking about parent councils at the moment, I should declare an interest that in my parent role, I am the chairman of the Loch Norris Primary Parent Council. On top of that, I would say, and I agree with Linda, that the Parent Council steering group minutes that did come out directly after the meeting last Tuesday did state and prompt chairs of parent councils to push other members of the parent council and the parent forums for the schools to actually fill to fill it in. So sorry, my mind went then. But yes, that's. I just wanted to agree with Linda.
Thanks for that, Neil. Members, any further? Councillor Cowan.
Thank you, Provost. I'd like to start by thanking Linda for preparing the response to the consultation, and also her previous report to full council, which highlighted the work undertaken by Professor Ken Muir, Professor Louise Hayward, James Withers on the education reform, along with the previous input from the national discussion on education, again, which was a national open exercise in democracy facilitated by Professors Alma Harris and Carol Campbell. The recommendations contained in these reviews have all helped to inform the case for change across our education and skills landscape. I attended the meeting last week with Linda, with the chairs of the Parent Council, and I can only reiterate that both Linda and the chair of that steering forum did, as previously explained by Councillor Watts, try to encourage every member to go back to their own groups and take part in this consultation. When I was at school, O grades and Hires were the only gig in town, and to be honest, even then, they were only relevant if you wanted to continue with tertiary or university learning. I chose to get a job, and I continued my learning with on-the-job training and day release studying, first at Kilmarnock College and then Paisley University. We all have different pathways in life, but through my adult working life, one common thread has been the amount of times people have commented that what they learnt at school had little to no bearing on what they've ended up doing. That's one of the reasons why I was so impressed to hear that the previous administration of this council had taken the bold decision to invest £6 million to create 200 apprentices. It's one of the reasons I am filled with hope every time I visit the SL33 facility. It's one of the reasons I'm so encouraged when I go along to a routine head teachers meeting that we have officers from our economic development department there to share the opportunities presented by our Ayrshire Growth Deal. If the recommendations from this review make their way into our classrooms, then we have a golden opportunity to help our children develop the knowledge and skills necessary for the complexities of modern society and ever-changing future workplaces. This is the very approach we are already taking here in East Ayrshire to improve the chances of our children and young people. I realise what I've expressed so far is my opinion based on my own personal experiences. But if you have the time, I would encourage you to read the Hayward Report, which official title is Our Future Independent Review of Qualifications and Assessment Report. In that report, you will also find that the recommendations have been reviewed by an independent review group. That group has a diverse membership, and I'll give you some quotes from some examples of the diverse membership of that group. Joe Smith, lecturer, University of Stirling. The current system of one-year qualifications distorts the curriculum in the senior phase. Such short courses lead to assessments which reward hoop jumping and memorisation and give no time for students to develop deeper knowledge and a love of their subject. Their proposals promise to take knowledge seriously. By encouraging the study of subjects across 2 years of the senior phase, we can develop appropriate courses with valid assessments. Teachers will have time to explore their subjects in more depth rather than always teaching with one eye on the test. The project allows students to see the disciplinary contributions of their subjects and will help students understand how the knowledge and expertise developed in their subject studies have real-world application. Andrea Bradley, EIS General Secretary. The education that Scotland provides for its young people and adult learners has always been much, much more than a set of qualifications, but somehow we have allowed qualifications to become the instrument of measurement of how well educated individual learners are and of how well our schools, colleges and our education system is educating. Not only does this miss out so much of what matters with a good education, it misses out many learners, all of whom matter too. At last, we have an opportunity through the Scottish Diploma of Achievement to better reflect the broader purposes of education in positive shaping people and lives, not simply measuring or counting learners' achievements, but fully recognising and value them. We need to grasp this opportunity with both hands. The final quote I'll read out is from Tracy Black, who is the Director of CBI in Scotland. Businesses understand that qualifications and subjects studied are just one piece of the jigsaw when it comes to benchmarking a young person's skills and achievements. Employers also want to see the candidate behind the grade. The CBI's 2022 Education and Skills Survey highlights this. Attitudes and aptitudes for work were the most prized skills in both graduates and school leavers, alongside core skills and relevant work experience. The proposal of a Scottish Diploma of Achievement represents an important conduit for communicating these different skills to employers by providing a holistic representation of the skills, competencies and behaviours individuals have already demonstrated and can offer to business. This will ultimately help ensure that school leavers can transition into the workplace with full evidence of what they have achieved. Provost, I'd like to take the opportunity to encourage everyone in chambers today, if they can, to respond to the public consultation before this Monday's deadline. I would also urge members to put our pupils front and centre and support the recommendations from a Head of Education as described on page 77 in our report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cogley.
Thank you, Provost, and thank you very much for the report. I'm concerned about removing exams, and the reason for that is that life is competitive, and it's competitive whether you're on the sports field, participating in the performing arts, applying for jobs, or putting yourself forward as a political candidate, which all of us have done. And I think that we need to provide our young people with the appropriate skills so that they can compete. And a big part of that is through doing exams. And I know exams can be quite stressful and they can create a high level of anxiety in our young people, but by normalising exams and doing exams more often, we actually remove that level of anxiety. I'm a mother of 4. I've got kids, well, my kids are all now grown up, but I think between them, they've done pretty much every exam that there is to do. They've competed at all sorts of levels on the sports field, but it's always about competition, and we have to gear our young people up for competition. And my fear is that by taking the exam away, that we are not equipping them to compete in the bigger world that there is on the national and on an international stage. My 25-year-old is still doing exams, and it's tough. And if they're for a professional qualification, if she fails any of the papers that she's having to do during the course of the next 10 months, that's her law training contract out. And it's a competitive world. The cohort of people that she's competing alongside are international. And I'm concerned that we, by removing exams, are going to create a 2-tier education system. And that does concern me greatly. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor John McFadden.
Thanks, Provost. I'd like to thank Linda for the report and for the work she's done on this. All been very well presented. Rather than go through a great length, I would probably just like to say I support everything Councillor Cogley has just said. I think if it's not broken, don't fix it. I don't know why we continue to tinker with so many aspects of life that up to now have worked, especially when there's no proven reason that there's some other fabulous, better way of doing things. As far as the consultation goes, after being involved in local politics and council politics for maybe 30 years now, consultations are a very difficult thing to get people to get involved in. And when you're talking consultations about more serious stuff, I just wonder whether we should consider looking at a slightly different way of doing it. I mean, consultations, usually you'll get the interested parties will have their say very, very quickly. They'll become involved. But often the bulk of people I've found actually, they wait till the answers are out or the response has been published and they go, oh my goodness me, I don't agree with that. I wouldn't have done this, I wouldn't have done that, or I'd have said something different. So I wondered with consultations where we're talking about serious things, well, everything's serious, but very serious stuff, whether or not we should have like a halfway interim, set of results that could go out. So I mean, when you get your first burst of people responding to the consultation, if the consultation say 6 weeks long, at the 3-week point, have that first 3 weeks of information, assessed and assembled into some form of answers, and then that interim report could go out to all the parties we believe would be interested, parent councils and all the rest of it. And then when that gets read out to the parent council, or whatever group it is, the people will see then, oh, look, that's not what I'm thinking about. And a lot more people that may not have bothered to complete it might be more gendered to do so, if you know what I mean, because all of a sudden things aren't going the way they think. Because the end of so many consultations I've been involved in, I've had people coming back to me, as the councillor or the chair of the community council going, oh, that's not what I thought. And I go, well, you should have said something at the time. And they say, well, but I didn't know this is what would happen. So I don't know. It's just a thought. Should we have some sort of interim report and sort of more serious consultations? Anyway, I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll come back, Councillor Boyd. Members, any further? Right, Councillor Boyd.
Thanks, Provost. Just to answer Councillor Cown's points, the O grades we sat are far removed from the quality exams we have today, and also we have systems in place in schools for other types of assessment. The modern apprentices, what we're going to do with the aerospace qualifications, these are absolutely brilliant. Love all that, but there's still a place for formal exams and also in fourth year as well. So I don't really want to say anything more. I don't know if you want me to start to propose. There's only 3 questions and there's minor amendments I would like to propose. How do we go about it, Provost?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine, but I'll ask Linda to maybe respond to some of the comments that have been made, because it's still a consultation and there needs some clarification. Everything that we've heard is individuals' thoughts, and we need to get some clarification if it's needed. Thanks, Linda.
Thanks, Provost. I'm just really grateful that everyone's so interested in terms of what's actually happening to our young people out there. So can I thank everyone for their comments in the space in this particular regard. If I can just provide some reassurance, there's been some comments made about removing exams. So if I can read verbatim from the actual now, these are only recommendations that are with the Scottish Government at the moment. These have not been processed or accepted. So directly from recommendation 7 from Professor Hayward's report is act to reduce the number of examinations in the senior phase and involve only internal assessment at SCQF levels 1 to 5. Okay, this will open up a range of possibilities. For example, SCQF 6, level 6 higher courses to progress across 2 years and prevent the 2-term dash. That's not the 2-term dash is a term used in terms of young people coming in to do hires and literally having 2 terms to complete them, and then also not being able to get the breadth and depth that they need. So just to kind of flower that one out slightly. The next bit I do need to clarify, where appropriate, retain external examination. There is no move in the Hayward report to remove exams, and this keeps being referred to. It's to reduce the number of examinations and to use exams. And again, I'll read verbatim from this. Current examinations should be reviewed to reduce susceptibility to question prediction and over-rehearsal. So literally, members, I just want to clarify, it's not a removal of all exams, it's a reduction in exams and a review of the current examinations. So I think we just need to be minded. And again, at 4th year, if young people are staying on, then again, members, if young people are staying on, they were likely on a National 5 pathway. So again, if they're on a National 5 pathway, they're likely on a Level 6 pathway without overgeneralising, and it would remove, per se, the examinations from SCQF levels 1 through to 5 and allow some more breadth and depth. So just to really give a little bit more on that, as I say, I only give this to you as my best professional advice. I'm really grateful that there's enough thought about this, that we're considering amendments today. But just to be really, really clear, we're not seeking to remove examinations. There could be no move towards that in a Scottish education system, and it certainly wouldn't prepare young people in any way for any further education or higher education, where those would be absolutely mandated as part of that experience. So just to give a hope, a bit of reassurance in the space more than anything else, the words are act to reduce the number of examinations in the senior phase and involve only internal assessment at SCQF 1 to 5. So that's just a verbatim from Professor Hayward's recommendations at this stage on which this consultation covers. Thanks, Provost.
No, thanks, Linda. Important to get clarification. Now, Councillor Boyd has got a proposal to the amendment. An amendment to the proposal.
Thanks, Provost. So I'll just go through them in turn. It shouldn't take too long. Question 1. The second line, I would like to remove the following, please. There is absolutely a need to reduce the number of formal exams whilst still retaining those most appropriate to the subject matter in hand. No replacement either, please. Paragraph 2. There is an evidence need to look at two-year courses in all areas that may increase both breadth and depth of learning in all subject areas and eliminate teaching to test or indeed memory regurgitation, rather than the desired subject, skills, knowledge and application. Remove, please, and replace with the following. Reducing the number of examinations and removal of exams in S4 will require a greater amount of internal assessment, which will in turn increase teacher workload. New sentence. There is variability and inconsistencies associated with internal assessments. Formal examinations in S4 through to S6 shall continue to be fair, robust and reliable. Exams should focus on subject skills, knowledge and application as many do at present. We must ensure that qualifications increase both the breadth and depth of learning in all subject areas. That's the amendment to question 1. The next amendment is question 4. Paragraph 3, a new body must also seek to erase any nuances around existing 2 to 3 tier system, whereby a suite of hires is recognised as gold standard with other learning taking place. Please replace this paragraph with the following. All learning is valuable. There remains a place in Scotland for formal qualifications in S4 through to S6 that are recognised and respected worldwide. Ends there, please. And the last question, question 6. We broadly agree with the purposes set out and with no suggested additions. The core purposes are sound. Please remove and replace with the following. The core purposes of the document are admirable. However, the current proposals should be explored further. Ends. Perfectly happy with the rest of the paper. That is the only amendment. So that is the amendment I'm putting forward. Please, Provost. Thank you.
So you're putting an amendment right now? Yes. Okay. Yep. Do you have a seconder for that amendment? Okay.
Thank you very much. If I could do 2 things, please, Provost. Second the amendment and...
No, if you second amendment, that's great. There's people waiting.
Okay.
Yeah. But you'll come back, yeah?
I had also asked to, again, and it was to build...
There's people waiting, Maureen, in the queue to speak.
Yes, thank you. And I think I am one of those people waiting in the queue. I don't know what my position in the queue is, so I'll happily just come back when it's my turn then. Thank you.
No, thank you. So a proposal to the amendment, sorry, an amendment, and we've got a seconder for the amendments. That's great, thank you. Right, Councillor Lennox.
Thanks, Provost. I just think that, thanks Linda for the presentation. I just think that the purpose of any consultation is to get a broad range of views and consolidate those responses. And I think this report reflects that range, but while I respect Councillor Boyd's background and his experience in teaching, I think he's attempting to tinker with the results to reflect his own personal opinions, and I don't think that's quite right. So I'd just like to make that statement. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor John McGee.
Hi, thanks, Provost. This kind of reminds me of the 31st of August, where we had a really good debate on a fairer council tax, and here, lo and behold, it's frozen. So we kind of wasted our time that day, although I thought it was a fantastic debate. And I don't see any harm in having this debate today, because Linda's presenting a paper to her best kind of advice as she stated, and I just welcome the fact that you've got a range of views about education, and I would just like to say that I hope that when we're talking about all of this, that we remember all the kids that don't get the qualifications, and maybe we need them for plasterers and brickies, engineers and electricians, etc. Thank you.
No, a fair, absolutely fair comment. With Austrian visitors, I don't know if anybody remembered, and at 14, those that want go down the vocational route, and they work 2 days a week with a local company. So that, absolutely, I would love to see some like that for vocational stuff. Councillor Richardson.
Thanks, Provost. Thanks, Chair. There's been many good comments made already. I especially liked Councillor McGee's comment, because I definitely agree that we do need to widen Scottish education, and we need to make sure that people who, you know, their skills lie in a vocational apprenticeship, a training course, etc. You know, the system needs to cater for them, and that's why I'm actually quite happy just now with the way that paragraph 1 is worded, because I do think that the number of formal examinations should reduce while still retaining those are most appropriate to the subject matter in hand. But I was going to ask Linda a question. Linda, it goes, and this is people that are more academically, you know, that's where their skill set lies, because it talks about 2-year courses, and I take it that's 2-year hires, Linda. So I was never one of these people, but I did go to school with people who were very, very, very bright, basically. And I always felt that through my 6 years at Kilmarnock Academy way back in the 80s, that some people, just some people, the very, very bright, the top 5–10%, that, let's call it, you know, state education, possibly held them back a wee bit. So if we're going to introduce 2-year hires, how would somebody who's very, very bright at advanced higher level, how would they at that advanced higher then be fitted into their education?
Through you, Provost, and thanks, Councillor Richardson. Ultimately, the hire would begin in 4th year. And we already have 2-year hires in some schools. Can I just make members aware this isn't anything that's new, that's been proposed by Professor Hayward. We do have some young people who pick up qualifications very early doors. We've got NCs in engineering out there just now that young people enter into straight out of 3rd year. So again, when we take the Withers report in combination, I think that the important thing here is not to see this report in isolation. It's actually the sum of the parts in terms of the paper that was presented earlier, and indeed all members would have had the opportunity, you know, considering there's some very strong opinions around about some of the aspect of exams, there were also opportunities there to consult in the best sense possible through both Hayward. Withers wasn't a consultation, but Hayward and Muir and the Campbell-Harris papers were all live consultations. So again, if there's a strength of feeling in that regard, then clearly I would hope that's also been channelled through those 3 open consultations, which were very open in terms of how they were formed. Ultimately, the young people would start this at the start of 4th year. There is always a way out, members, in terms of the accreditation of units, and units are already part of hires. So in terms of the internal assessment, this is something that's already ongoing. So what I would say is, whilst some of the proposals seem radical, they're actually already enacted in a lot of our schools, because the schools, again, in an empowerment agenda, have the curricular freedom to reflect their own context. And Councillor Richard, Councillor McGee, your own comments in respect of, you know, plastering and some of the vocational trades that people are really struggling for right now, in terms of try and phone one and get one, is increasingly difficult. And we need ways to accredit the learning of those young people in those particular spaces that don't create a 2- and 3-tier system and make these young people feel any less valuable. So ultimately, the young people would start these courses when they've finished their 3rd year, they've completed the broad general education. We can stop starting them in terms of an experience at the end of 4th year revising for one set of exams, and actually take them straight through to their higher with buyout clauses all the way through. So there's no child can be disenfranchised in the 2-year model, because actually there's another way through, which is the accreditation of units at level 6. The other wee bit I maybe want to mention is, as a council, we've already endorsed foundation apprenticeships, they're currently a level 6 higher qualification. So can I just say they're already on the SCQF. They don't contain any form of examination, but they do contain an absolutely fantastic collaboration between the employer, the young person and our local college, who've been hugely supportive of their deployment. So just to be clear again, we're already operating qualifications of this out because our schools are completely empowered to do the right thing for the young people in their care. And I would like to think they're already doing so. But ultimately what we're trying to do is open more thinking in that space, particularly in the context of the Ayrshire Growth Deal, where we need really useful learning to take place. And that's what I hope the key phrase is that comes through. And other colleagues have already used it around about we need to create a place for useful learning and have that learning accredited in ways. And again, I am not precious about this particular response. This is a response put to you in a democratic process, members. I ultimately I've got my own central education response and indeed those of my teams, but the piece about the 2-year qualification would be to start that qualification at the start of 4th year.
No, thanks for that, Linda. Councillor McFadden, is that another request to speak, or is it a legacy? We'll go on. Councillor Mackay.
Thank you very much. And Linda, thank you. I really welcome your comments. And those are actually the points that I wanted to bring further into the discussion, because Councillor McGee is completely correct. We have to make sure that what we have is we have opportunities and we have education for all. And I genuinely believe that in East Ayrshire we do that very well indeed. And we take account of all young people. When you made reference to the 2-term dash, I have had the privilege of sitting parent council meetings in schools where I have had head teachers put forward their proposals for how they are actually going to change the approach that they are taking to deliver qualifications to ensure that no longer is there a 2-term dash. So I think that we are doing rather well. I think if I have an overall criticism of the response, it would be that we are not taking the opportunity to actually blow our own trumpet about the successes that we have made, the understanding that we have in terms of the importance and the significance of apprenticeships. And again, I think that that is certainly something that the call asked for by the education spokesperson earlier for us to make our own personal responses is certainly something that I am very interested in doing, and also making sure that I make these comments about my experiences here of education in East Ayrshire. But I do think that to have a balanced view that what we have got down here is responding directly to the new thinking and the education documents, but in some senses we in East Ayrshire have already been ahead of the game of that new thinking being formalised in reports, and that's why I am prepared to support the changes that Councillor Boyd is putting in, because I think that gives us what a balance is within this report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Canning.
Thanks, Provost. First of all, just to thank Linda for the report, and also fellow Councillor Cowan, who I thought gave a very balanced, Councillor Cowan, who I thought I gave a very balanced summary. I think, I don't know if it was Councillor Cowan that said, but I think somebody did say that the purpose of consultation is to have as many views as possible. And I think, I don't know how this is heading, but if we're to, if we're having a vote here, I think that's likely to dilute the responses. I think a much better approach would be to take Linda's response, which is obviously a huge amount of experience and is consulted widely within all the education section and teachers in East Ayrshire. I think it would be much better to take that, and for every single, it's 12 questions, it's 18th of December. I think much better for every one of the 32 members here, including Graham, Councillor Boyd, to make their own comments. And I think that would increase the number of responses, improve the consultation, rather than going down a route of having a vote and a single response, which would dilute the consultation. So thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Councillor Mabin.
Thank you, Provost. Just can I ask that the consultation responses would be weighted on, depending on where they come from? So a single response from a parent or an individual perhaps wouldn't count as heavily as a response from a local authority. The other comment I'd like to make was about the apprenticeships. I do see the value on sitting exams for employers who are considering taking on apprentices. They would look at exam results and the basic concepts of whether they can count, read, communicate well, and they would be considered for apprenticeships. The likes of Spirit Aerosystems would shortlist using exam results before they go to interview stage. Spirit Aerosystems also do a practical test for when they go to interview and they take young people in. I know, for example, the ability to wire up a 13-amp plug and read a drawing, and the ability to make a rectangle of 6 holes and drill 6 holes in a piece of metal is how they would judge and select who would be appropriate for apprenticeships. So the practical skills, the engineering skills, if they are beginning to get those into 3rd and 4th year and pass exams as well, would put potential apprentices going to employers on a very good footing to be selected for an apprenticeship. But I do see it as being a mixture of both. They need to pass exams, they need to have results, and they need to have the practical skills for many employers.
Okay, yeah, Linda, yep.
I couldn't agree with you more, Councillor Mabin, and in terms of the practical aspect as well for precision engineering such as that British Aerospace and Spirit would carry out. To my knowledge, there's no weighting applied to whether it's a local authority response, just to answer your first question, but whether it's a local response, it's merely a tick box to let them know who you are. There's an identification that you'll see in my papers there to let them know who you are. There's no weighting applied because ultimately, can I just refer colleagues again to the fact that the recommendations from this, so the 12 questions that follow the recommendations are already with the Scottish Government. So they commissioned Professor Louise Hayward to make those recommendations. That was also part of a consultation. And again, I would refer members back to those in terms of when they were launched and when they were out, and given the strength of feeling, I hope some people obviously took part in that to allow them to express their own views on education per se, because that's what they were all about. To move on, Councillor Mabin, I think it's really important we don't conflate exams and qualifications. The young people would still have the qualifications to attend an interview, so the likes of their National 4 mathematics, their National 5, if per se the recommendations, and again by government, not aligned to this consultation today, if the recommendation is taken from Louise Hayward by government to remove S4 exams, or those SCQF 1 to 5, because again, those might not relate to S4. That could be an S5 young person doing a National 5 qualification without an exam. So ultimately, I think it's just important not to conflate the exam with the qualification, because the qualification would still be there. National 4 is already internally assessed as an example, and that equates very, very loosely back into the kind of general standard in terms of standard grade. I won't get into the O grades. I won't go too far back, but just to make the separation there, that young person would still be presenting with that portfolio of evidence.
Thank you. Councillor McGee.
Hi, thanks, Provost. Just along similar lines of Councillor Canning, but just slightly different. Obviously, this is going to head to a vote, and I think that's what's going to dilute the response, because one side's going to win and one side's going to lose. So we'll just say, for example, the paper as it stands goes through. That wouldn't really be reflective of the council's view on it. But instead of taking stuff out, there might be stuff or comments that we could add in from elected members that might even enhance the responses. And that's not a criticism of the paper that's before us. So, to me, there's room for compromise. If the elected members here think they've got something to say, instead of having to fill in their own submissions, if it was part of a unanimous council decision, then I think that would go a long way to say this was the view of the council. When it goes to a vote, and I can't remember how many councillors are here today, and it's 15, 14, or whatever the score is, what's that going to show us? It's not going to show us what the council response was, and that's only a view. Thank you.
No, get that. Absolutely get that. Councillor Richardson.
Thanks, Provost. Thanks, Chair. Councillor Maven made some good points there. I just wondered, because Spirit Air Systems was mentioned, and Councillor Maven mentioned drilling 6 holes into a bit of metal. It's actually my wife that's teaching the new entrants, and they have to go through ongoing training as well. So that's called drilling and countersinking. Now, you don't just drill 6 holes into a bit of metal. You actually have to read a technical drawing, because obviously in aeroplanes, those 6 holes have got to be in the right place. So you need to be actually pretty intelligent, because you need to look at that drawing, take your bit of metal, and Sham will check that you have drilled and countersinked those 6 holes to aerospace levels of skill in the right places. Now, this is where I'm going with this. If there was young people coming out of the schools in enough numbers, Spirit Air, with those skills, Spirit Air Systems wouldn't be in the position they're in, because they have jobs down there, well-paid jobs, that they can't fill. So it would be better if our young people were spent in technical metalwork, whatever it's called now. It would be better for me if those young people were spending time with a teacher learning how to read technical drawings, learning how to drill holes into bits of metal, so that they're coming out of schools with the skills that employers that Spirit Aerospace are looking for. Because Sharon also tells me that the quality they're getting in, and this isn't school leavers, this is, you know, in general, this is like, you know, people in their 20s and 30s and what have you. They might actually initially accept people who then start to go through the training and don't have the skills to drill these 6 holes in the right places. So if there was a type of qualification that didn't necessarily require the passing of a written exam, but did say this young person has these skills in metalwork or whatever it's called now, then Spirit Air Assistance would bite your hand off for these young people, because they're desperate for folk with the skills. And it's more about teaching the skills rather than being able to pass a written exam. So that's all I wanted to say to that.
Councillor Richardson, you'll be delighted to know the qualification is already here, and it's in many of our schools as we speak. It's called Performing Engineering Operations. Colleagues will remember, I'm sure, the dismal days when you were in technical making a toilet roll holder out of wood or a jewellery box for some of us, but ultimately those are about learning on the precision tools. So we have a qualification now, Performing Engineering Operations. I don't have a list of how many schools are offering it at this point in time. We brought that into line with the Ayrshire Growth Deal members in terms of exactly that what the employers were telling us through the Regional Skills Partnership was this is the skills that they needed. They needed young people who are fantastic in terms of interpretation of design and then implementation using precision tools or indeed hand tools. In that regard, some fantastic companies have come on that journey with us, and that would actually include Spirit Aero in terms of being really clear about what they want, and clearly with the creation of the AMIC in terms of our engineering corridor and the connections through my own Ian Burgoyne through to David McDowell in the employability field. This is something that we're going to keep expanding. We have one school of engineering, which was at Loudon Academy. I referred to that earlier on, that was created during my own headship, and that put young people into the 2-year national certificate in engineering, which guaranteed them acceptance into either the second year at Ayrshire College in terms of the HNC engineering, or indeed straight into the first year of the University of Strathclyde course, and we designed that with those. So ultimately those are the types of qualifications that are absolutely emerging. There is no written examination with these other than the practical interpretation of the written drawing, etc. And we're getting huge take up from young people who are really interested in this. They absolutely know that this is one of the biggest games in town in terms of being able to move on. So please know, Councillor Richardson, I'll be happy to give further detail, but certainly we've got lots of young people currently on PEO, and it will continue to be an offer as we go on. It's a very hugely expanding course. I think the college are struggling to keep up with us in terms of the amount of young folk that actually want to do it, but they've been absolutely fantastic in terms of supporting us with the lecturers in FE who deliver on that course, and indeed are upskilling our own staff in those technical departments that you refer to. So I hope that helps, Councillor Richardson.
No, thanks, Linda. That is very, very important. Get our young engineers. Now, right, yeah, it's okay. Now, Graham, do you want, your name's been here, but I was holding back for you to sum up. And
Promise, my hand was up. I couldn't get the mute button to go off. I did actually want to come in if that was possible.
Well, I asked you that earlier, John, but that's okay. Well, there's a list, John. So we'll just wait. We know you're waiting now. Thank you.
Okay.
Do you want to contribute just now, because there's more folk wanting to go in? Yeah, that's okay.
I'll be very brief. Right. Down to this point, the removal of fourth year exams, right? You remove them then. Who does the assessment? It falls in teachers, and that's what I think those opposing don't get. You really need to speak to teachers. Teachers are flat out. It lands in them. I can speak from experience. It's an absolute nightmare, internal assessments, bureaucratic procedures, something called moderation. There's wild variations in the way they're marked. It sometimes can be 20%. And I also wanted, I need an answer to this. How are they secure? Say for National 5 English, there's an element of that internally assessed. It's an essay. It can go home. So if you can afford £35 an hour for a tutor, you'll have influence there. My partner's daughters had the essays to do at home. You know, so if you can have somebody helping you, where is the rigour there? And an exam, everybody in Scotland does it at the same time under exam conditions. It's fair and democratic. I am not against other forms of assessment, but you must have exams. As I say, also this two-term dash, part of that's been brought in by Curriculum for Excellence. We used to have third and fourth year standard grade, third year's broad general education now. For a lot of pupils, it's treading water, doing subjects they don't want to do. Fourth year has been crammed in, and a resulting knock-on effect. I go back, there was nothing wrong with standard grade. Everybody get the same fair opportunity. You know, the internal assessments, there's not the rigour. They're open to outside influences will help parents. I can back that up. I've seen it in the classroom. Any teacher will tell you that.
Yeah, I'm absolutely fine, Provost. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Councillor Ingram.
Thanks very much, Provost. I suppose I want to kind of touch on a couple of things. Obviously, when Linda was talking about useful learning, we need to make sure that we're supporting all our learners and not just those who perform under stressful situations like exams. When Graham raised the point that it needs to be fair, fair for who? I think we need to concentrate on, yes, those who are going to be high flyers, if you like, their pathway is to university and beyond, and into workplaces that Councillor Cogley was talking about, where there will be high demand and highly stressful situations where maybe exams do promote that sort of kind of deadline-based work. But I don't think that's everybody. In response to that, you don't lessen trauma by increasing the numbers of times you put people in traumatic experiences. And for a lot of our learners, that's exactly what exams are. So continual assessment is very important when it comes to education. I'd just like to ask Linda, at the moment, how much continual assessment goes on in the classroom, and how much does that play a part in setting our kids up to succeed rather than fail?
Okay, through you, Provost, and thanks, Councillor Ingram. So, I mean, continually, I suppose it's again about conflation and making sure we're all talking about the same thing. So young people are assessed in classrooms every single day, you know, either by sight or they're assessed in ECCs. If you've ever experienced your wee nieces or nephews' learning journal, for example, and looking at what they can learn even in photographic form in terms of what the ECC member of staff has seen on that day. So continual assessment is something that goes on in the classroom via discussion, observation, sight, sound, and all other different modes of assessment, I suppose, Councillor Ingram. In terms of maybe the questions more around about the kind of formal assessment side of things, then clearly, and again, Councillor Boyd rightly points out, these are different, you know, in terms of some exams have elements of internal assessment and some don't. Okay, so in terms of the English one that was being referred to there, the essay written at home is a part of the assessment, but it's not the full assessment. There's also an examination goes along with that, whereas in National 4, that's not undertaken. So we already have a system whereby National 4s are internally assessed by staff, and moderation is there to iron out any of those perceived variations in and about there. And members, you'll recall through the Standards and Quality Report, we never saw the inflation of grades when we had to deploy the ACM during the COVID crisis. We have literally now, in terms of local measures, displaying a really great return. Our young people have absolutely rallied, as have our staff in that space through COVID recovery. So ultimately, Councillor Ingram, to answer your question, it varies subject by subject, but at National 4, it's internally assessed. And we recognise young people take stuff home. I've just completed a degree last year. Again, didn't contain an exam, and I had the opportunity to take stuff home, and I absolutely recognise, and Councillor Boyd's right to point out, the evolution of AI brings a very new dimension to education, but we need to embrace that and understand it, because young folk can, at the click of a button, write an essay. That's absolutely right. But ultimately as well, the new technology has been launched. It's like your anti-missile technology, if I can be that loose. There is now new technology being deployed to detect when that's the case, and it's incredibly accurate. So I think as an education service nationally, we're only just beginning to embrace the power and indeed the potential pitfalls of AI, but those are all alluded to again in the bigger reports in terms of what will we do about AI, because those concerns are valid in that context, but this consultation is not about AI. So I think I just need to be clear that internal moderation has always been a thing in terms of Scottish education, not always the final point of assessment, generally been a part of, but there are those qualifications that we've been deploying now for at least 4 and 5 years that are only internally assessed vis-a-vis the National 4, or indeed, you know, include practical elements. Higher PE involves your PE teacher coming along to watch you in a team or performance scenario, as an example. So they all vary hugely, Councillor Ingram, but I can certainly get you further detail on any individual ones you would like to hear about, you know, so, but they vary hugely. Hope that helps.
Yeah, thanks, Linda. We've got Councillor McMahon.
Thanks, Provost. Thank goodness every day's a school day for me. I continue to learn. I'm 63-year-old and I'm still learning. I think, and I'm glad Councillor Ingram touched on that traumatic experiences with young people. I've said it before, and I'm not going to hide my background. I grew up in a school with no qualifications. Coming from a family that I'd experienced 9 of the ACEs that's recognised ACEs. So to say that exams are fair and democratic, they're no. We're a wee bit more knowledgeable now in how the impact of trauma affects everybody. So you can't sit somebody in a room and say that they're going to achieve possibly with the same attitude as somebody else and probably the same skill set, but through life's experiences they can't achieve that. So for me, the qualification, whether it's important to know about language, it's a qualification at the end of this. Whether it's in paper or whether it's you've done that with your hands. So it's important for me then that the qualification, we put pressures on our young folk as it is. I don't know how many times I've heard it said about this is the most important year of your life. No, it's not. Absolutely no, the most important year of your life. And we're all guilty of that, parents and teachers. And we'll start. So every day is a day further that you can experience life and achieve it through your life. Linda, a question for me is around about the length of time that you've taken as the Chief Education Officer and bringing this paper, the organisation boards and committees that you're sitting on prior to bringing it, and the length of time you've taken to it. And probably a question for Councillor Boyd, maybe if you could just clarify on something about the increased workload on teachers. And I think you used the comment pressures on teachers for passes, if we can maybe just broaden that out, what it actually means with pressures on teachers for passes.
We'll come back to that. We'll come back to that question because I'm going to give Councillor Boyd the final word on, because you put the amendment in. We've got Councillor John McFadden.
Thank you, Provost. First, I'd like to apologise for not responding when you offered me the chance a while ago, but I couldn't get the mute button to go off for some reason. We've talked a lot today about, avoiding a two-tier system, and in many ways, I'd say a two-class system with education, and the importance of trades and trade professions, plumbers, mechanics, everything across the board, aircraft engineers and people making them. I think one of the things we need to get rid of or try and improve on in this country very much is perception. Because perception is a huge thing, especially when you're young and you're making informative choices. I think, children want branded trailers, not trainers, not just Joe Bloggs' shoes. They want Coca-Cola. They don't want something described as brown fizzy liquid. I think the perception of trades and the qualifications you can get for trades has always been very second class in this country, and I think it's been very unfair. I mean, in academia, you can your O levels, you get your hires, you get your degree, advanced degree, doctorate, and all the rest of it. Whereas in the trades, up until recently, you've been very lucky to get anything more than a certificate, a diploma of competence. It's unfair. I think the trades are very, very important in this country, and I think they should be higher plumbing, higher motor mechanics, advanced motor mechanics, degrees, equally prestigious outcomes from the education. And I think that seriously needs looked at, because I think lots of people who may have gone into things don't, because they perceive it as, well, that's not as good as my friends are aiming for. And, the trades are what this country's built on. And as far as, getting rid of exams and taking away the pressure of exams, the strangest thing is now, in the last 15 years, I've watched this come in. I mean, as far as I'm aware, once you're a doctor, you're a doctor. You don't have to go back and keep resitting and getting permission to be a doctor. You don't have to do that to be a lawyer or even a teacher or anything, unless someone's going to tell me I'm wrong. But in my line of work as a MOT tester, I now have to pass an annual exam and exceed 80% pass rate, or I'm simply out of work. That's me gone. My friend's a gas engineer. He's got to go every 3 years roughly and get 100%, or he's out of work. More and more where the trades are considered, you have to obtain a ticket. You have to renew that ticket, pass those exams, forklift driving, engineering, all sorts of things. There's more and more exams coming in to the trades way of life than there ever was before, and they hold a high consequence, because if you don't pass them, you either have to stop until you do, and if you can't continue. So, I mean, you've got that stress, and being used to exams probably will help more and more people in the trade line to accept them as part of their life. But my biggest point is, I think we should be rebranding all the qualifications for trades, not glorifying them, but making them hold the equal importance that academic qualifications would have, the same pride, because perception is huge with children, and that's the age when they may consider what they do in life and what they aspire to. And as I say, they aspire to quality trainers, quality products. So they'll want to aspire to a quality qualification. Anyway, that's the end of my long-winded story. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Councillor Cowan.
Thank you, Provost. I would just like to add my appreciation to the views that have been expressed here in Chamber by several members. I think it's been demonstrated we could talk to the coos come home about this subject, but one thing that's coming through strong and clear to me is we all want the right thing for our children and our learners in the Scottish education system. I wholeheartedly agree with Councillor McFadden's earlier comments about the apathy amongst the public with some consultations, but I think that's separate to what we have in front of us here. But I certainly do think anything that we can do to encourage people to take part in these consultations will advance and reap the benefits for all of us in Scotland. So once again, just like to remember, we're not setting policy here. This is a public consultation. Hopefully, through the clarification that has been given by our Head of Education, she has reassured people about what's going on currently within our school establishments in East Ayrshire and what we are actually delivering. And that if anyone was misunderstanding the fact that we're not looking at taking away exams, we're looking at providing a process that will bring successful learners through into the workplace and people have the necessary skills to enhance their life chances in modern society. I would like to move that we accept the recommendations on page 77 and paragraph 2 of the report.
Councillor McMahon.
I'll second that, Provost.
Thank you. Right, thanks, folks. That's well over an hour of discussion. Leader.
Just very quickly, I mean, it's been a very emotive discussions and very lengthy discussion. I'm not looking to prolong that any further, but just I think Councillor McGee came in with a fair point in terms of, there is a great interest here and there is a wide range of views. I'm just thinking, when we present the consultation, and I've not got a crystal ball, I don't know who's going to win the vote of the day, but we present a majority view and a minority view in terms of the consultation, whatever that majority view and whatever that minority view is, that we submit that both in terms of a response.
Well, I was going to bring on that. I think Councillor Boyd, Councillor McGee's entirely reasonable proposition was that the addition of your amendment onto the paper, that'd be a unified part from the council for the consultation, or do you feel, as is absolutely your right, that you want to change the recommendations?
I'm going with my proposal to change the recommendations, please.
It's absolutely fine. We'll hand over to Julie for the voting procedure. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Provost. So the motion is by Councillor Boyd, seconded by Councillor Mackay, to change the recommendations. That's questions 1, 4 and 6. Councillor Boyd, could I ask if you could share that information with me just so I can capture it in the minute after the meeting, please? The amendment is by Councillor Cowan, seconded by Councillor McMahon, to accept the proposed response as set out in the paper. So I'll call the roll, members. If you can indicate your for the motion or for the amendment. So again, the motion is by Councillor Boyd, seconded by Councillor Mackay, and the amendment is by Councillor Cowan, seconded by Councillor McMahon. Provost Jim Todd.
Sorry, Julie. Is this a point of order?
We just need to be clear. Map 1 is the motion. I thought it was going to be an amendment. Just can we have absolute clarity, Julie, please?
You are the motion.
I am the motion.
You are the motion.
Okay,
yep.
Thank you.
Yep. So calling the roll, if you can indicate your support for either the motion by yourself, Councillor Boyd, or the amendment, which is by Councillor Cowan. Provost Jim Todd.
Amendment.
Councillor Stephen Canning.
Amendment, please.
Councillor Ellen Friel.
Amendment, please.
Councillor John McFadden.
Motion, please.
Councillor John McGee.
Amendment.
Councillor Aileen Cowan.
Amendment.
Councillor Maureen Mackay.
Motion, thank you.
Councillor David Richardson.
Amendment.
Councillor James Adams. Councillor Ian Linton. Councillor Douglas Reid.
Amendment.
Councillor Graham Barton.
Amendment.
Councillor Graham Boyd.
Motion, please.
Councillor Barry Douglas. Councillor Douglas. Oh, thank you. Thanks. Councillor Neil Ingram.
Amendment.
Councillor Peter Maben.
For the motion, please.
Councillor Claire Maitland.
Amendment.
Councillor Beverly Clark.
Amendment.
Councillor Sally Cogley.
Motion.
Councillor Kevin McGregor.
Motion, thanks.
Councillor Linda Holland.
Motion, thanks, Julie.
Councillor William Lennox.
Amendment.
Councillor Alison Simmons.
Motion.
Councillor Billy Crawford. Councillor June Kyle.
Motion.
Councillor Jim McMahon.
Amendment, please.
Councillor Neil Watts.
Motion.
Councillor Jennifer Hogg.
Amendment, please.
And Councillor Elaine Stewart.
Motion, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Provost. So the amendment receives 15 votes and the motion 14. So the amendment is carried.
Thanks very much, Julie. Thanks, members. That was a really good discussion. We're on to item 7 now. This is the Kilmarnock Strategic Vision Update. And we'll bring in Claire to give us this report. Thanks, Claire.
Thank you, Provost. Good morning, members. This paper does present the first annual report on progress relating to the Kilmarnock Strategic Vision following approval by Council last December. Paragraphs 3 to 6 set out that background, and within I would highlight establishment of the Kilmarnock Strategic Group and its remit, the identified priority areas which partners can contribute to long-term positive outcomes for the town, and at paragraph 5, the principal recommendations as approved by Council relating to the building on the corner of Dunlop Street, Strand Street, the floral clock, use of historical developer contributions to facilitate early action through the strategic group, recommencement of the Galleon Centre refurbishment, and outline plans for redevelopment of the multi-storey car park site. Through paragraphs 7 to 11, the report provides broader contextual updates pertaining to Kilmarnock. Significantly, the recent UK Government announcement that it will be one of 7 towns in Scotland to receive investment for community-led regeneration. Officers have reviewed the detail of the associated English guidance, while the Scottish version is awaited, and the report provides a summary at paragraph 9, including the level of prescription that may be anticipated in relation to composition of a town board and the significant focus on community leadership. It confirms that a paper will be brought forward to provide more information and detail following receipt and consideration of the guidance for Scotland's towns. In relation to proposed LDP2 and the Kilmarnock Development Framework, which underpin the strategic vision, the report confirms that these remain at examination, with conclusions expected imminently. Once received and subject to Council's agreement through future reports, work to adopt these will commence. Moving through paragraphs 12 and 13, the report describes progress in relation to removal of the floral clock. In approving the strategic vision, Council agreed to an allocation of up to £71,975 from historical developer contribution monies for its removal and landscaping of the site. And I can update members further to the progress set out in the report that consents have been granted subject to conditions. Currently, costs are estimated to be in the region of £30,000 to £40,000, and members will be further updated once final costs are known. Within the recommendations, we are asking for the balance of this allocation to be delegated to the strategic group to come within the early success framework described within the report. In terms of the building at Strand Street, Dunlop Street, at paragraphs 14 and 15, proposals subject to consents have developed towards taking the facade of the building to solum level, pairing this with hard and soft landscaping and interpretation boards to tell the story of the history of the site. Moving through to paragraphs 17 to 21, in approving the suite of Kilmarnock Strategic Vision papers in relation to proposals to refurbish and repurpose the Galleon Centre, it was agreed to commission an external design team to develop options to REBA Stage 2 with estimated fees up to £400,000. Following preparation and agreement of a commodity and procurement strategy, a design team was commissioned in August through the SCAPE Public Sector Framework. The design team fee for the current stage 1, is 80,000, with a fee of 240,000 to develop the design to REBA stage 2, giving a total of £320,000 compared to that initial assessment. At paragraph 20, the report sets out that a detailed REBA stage 1 has recently been issued, which includes 3 emerging feasibility options based on a tiered approach for increasing levels of intervention at the Galleon Centre. The report is currently being reviewed, and a further report will be presented to members in due course, as detailed at paragraph 21, and linked to this is the cross-cutting review of leisure-related services, which Council agreed in October. The report then goes on to detail the work of the Kilmarnock Strategic Group since its first meeting in February of this year. In the period, its significant focus, as described in paragraphs 22 to 24, has been to build collective understanding of the regeneration interventions being developed or delivered across the town, and to bring these together from both strategic and operational perspective as a connected system of projects that represent significant investment by a range of partners and that have the potential for substantial positive impact. Members, at paragraphs 26 to 28 and Appendix 1, the paper proposes a framework for approval through which, in line with the intent of the Kilmarnock Strategic Vision, early actions can be fully determined and implemented by the Strategic Group, utilising those developer contribution monies already allocated. Subject to approval of the framework, processes will be implemented through the Strategic Group to ensure that proposals coming forward are robust, both in terms of cost and in terms of supporting collaborative decision making and delivery. The report thereafter sets out progress against all 47 of the actions within the Integrating Action Plan, and this is provided at Appendix 2. The implications are described through paragraphs 32 to 42. The recommendations are at paragraph 2, and members recognising the collective leadership of this agenda across the council. A number of colleagues are in chamber today and will be happy to take questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Claire. I'm going to open it up. Members, Leader.
Thanks, Provost, and thanks, Claire. I think this is a really good paper. I think the organisation, the strategic group, has been very successful in trying to get collaboration and early, quick, consensual decision making that we need to do. And I think that's seen. I've been looking at Kilmarnock Town Centre regeneration for almost a generation, and I think what we're looking at just now, we've got to make some there's some big decisions that's coming our way fast, and we've got to, it's how quickly we can respond to these in a positive way that we really need a body to look at that. We're really absolutely delighted to receive the levelling up funding money for the Grand Hall Palace Theatre, the money for the Infinity Loop, and the long-term investment in town. So we've got to have that body. I think there's still a discussion with the Scottish Government and what that will look like. It will look, I think, slightly different from the English model, but it's important that we're prepared for that. And I think the strategic group can be a vehicle to utilise that money and get some quick early wins and some much needed investment in Kilmarnock Town Centre. Some of the crucial decisions I was talking about, I mean, they're coming closer and closer. And when I looked at the traffic light report, and particularly like looking at the civic buildings, March is only less than 4 months away. It's what the kind of plan was to vacate these properties. I think that's very ambitious, and we want to market these, but it's urgent, in terms of dealing with it. Similarly, the Galleon Centre, there's a wide range of options here, but I think, even with the circumstances with the market just now, I think we've got to make that investment early, because leisure as part of the commercial success of our town centres, I think there should be a particular focus on leisure and wellbeing, and that's part of it. And also too, and it's good to see this is tied very much up with the LDB2, and we need, you know, some urgent action in terms of the south central bit of the town centre. There's so much of our land, the land there's, you know, blighted by what SEPA's saying. So we need to look at solutions for this land and get some of this land back into play and, you know, active use. And we know that there's people that are interested, but the kind of some of the comments that SEPA are saying are really limiting successes there. It's been great to see some of the quick wins. Look forward to the new Burns mural. The clock getting removed and some of the plans here for Strand Street, Dunlop Street. And it's just, you know, I was having a conversation with some of the folk in the business community about the shop front money. And I've spoken to one shop holder that was saying that the difference in commercial upturn, because just a change in signage. And that's just part of some of the things that we're facilitating through this £1 million worth of money that we've been putting in, is to help the appearance. That increases footfall and that improves the number of jobs and the commercial success of some of our town centres. So it's great to see that taking place. The only wee comment maybe I ask Claire, just to say, you know, in terms of, well, a couple of comments. How does she see as taking for the structure in terms of governance, in terms of the strategic group, and to respond to what the government will be looking for, or the governments will be looking for in terms of spending that £20 million? We want that money spent as quickly as we can and to respond as quickly as we can. And I'm just wondering what her thoughts there. And certainly, I don't see, I might be wrong in terms of, but we don't have any mention, but and I know it's been discussed about events, and we know very much how great events can help the commercial vitality of the town. I heard, for example, I got the tail end about yourself, Provost, and others, and it was a very successful Christmas event this year. And I believe there's some of the information that we're getting is that £29 pounds per person, and folk attending that event was spent in premises in the town, and that's bringing a lot of money, and that's what keeps businesses going. So, you know, I think, you know, the sad demise of Celebrate Kilmarnock, who really had a particular focus around events, and it was sad to, you know, to see some of the likes of Killeen and some of the other events been a wee bit diluted. And I would like to see some kind of focus in events. I know we've spoken to, I think we need a summer event. I know there's been people advocating a Burns event. Well, that happened in the past, and being advocating that and just making something of it were links there. And I would like very much to see events being part of that. But just like to thank Claire for the report, but I hope members can support this and really get behind the commercial success and the success of our town centre. Thanks, Provost.
No, thank you. Claire, there's some questions there for the leader, but will I take some more questions then? Thank you for that. Councillor Lunton.
Thanks very much, Provost. As regards to the galleon, page 90, paragraph 17 through to 21, and in particular paragraph 20. I mean, I think the presentation we received from the external consultants and down at the galleon is really encouraging, and I'm particularly pleased that both the officers involved and indeed the consultants have given significant weight to the input from the galleon's manager. I mean, I think they've had several walk rounds, as indeed I did on Tuesday with Richard. It's really interesting to see just exactly what's going on and how the changes it will come. We've discussed it at the Galleon Trust, and I think it's a really exciting time. I think the building is tired, as we all know, and needs significant refurbishment, and it's just a case of getting that decision absolutely right. I think we've had a really good start, and I'm incredibly encouraged that we're on the right lines with regards to, you know, what we're going to do there.
No, thank you. Carry on. Councillor McMahon.
Thanks, Provost, and thanks, Claire. I'm cautiously optimistic. I think in the new year we're going to see quite a lot of progress. Multi-storey, we're well on the way to demolition. The clock coming out. The bus station is a great improvement. These 4 stances are absolutely brilliant. Well done, Ara's involvement there. It's just keeping it clean. I think we've got a chewing gum removal machine. We need to use it. The chewing gum's appearing. The contract needs to keep that bus station clean, but it's greatly improved these 4 stances. We've got the lift bid, and I know this is maybe coming in the next paper. we're going to be looking at the road dividing the Palace Theatre complex for the town centre. That is a big problem and separates the cultural quarter from the town centre. Well, little point just about Strand Street building. That and one other building predates the Victorian era in Kilmarnock. These two buildings are really important. I understand there's no commercial use for it. I would like the walls to remain as much as possible. Take them down to Solemn Height. I would try to avoid that, because we want to keep that streetscape. That was Kilmarnock's first street. We don't want bitty gap sites. That's where my problem started in the 70s with bitty gap sites. So good work. Obviously, I'm part of the group, so yeah, I'm pleased with the direction it's going. But we need quick wins. The people of Kilmarnock want to see things happening on the ground. And just my wee final point, I was my walking group lunch on Tuesday, and being a councillor, you always get asked what's happening here, what's happening there. But what was mentioned quite a few times was the Christmas lights, and they all say they're brilliant and they're the best in Ayrshire. So let's keep Kilmarnock as Ayrshire premier town.
Wouldn't disagree with that, Graham. Well, absolutely, the town's looking great. And Dougie alluded to the Burns Festival. It's going to be the biggest it's been in July. It's going to be a really good week of Burns festivities in the town centre. Great. Councillor Maitland.
Thank you very much, Provost, and thank you for the report. I'm like Councillor Boyd, optimistic. However, I'd just like to add something into the mix here. This is what we're doing as councillors in a council. But there are people making money out of our constituents and us in our town that take no responsibility whatsoever. So I would like to see us going forward have a civic corporate responsibility. I would like to see BT clean their graffiti up. I would like to see the clocks fixed in Morrison's. I know I'm naming people here, don't care. I'm sick of seeing cable ties and litter and debris and landscaping that is beyond poor. When you look further to the south, we have some beautiful Buglia gardens in our retail parks. So I would like to propose that we tackle some of this using civic responsibility because it's all our towns. So thank you.
No, thanks. Claire, there's a lot there. Sorry.
Thank you, Provost, and through you. With regards to the Kilmarnock Strategic Group and its current guise and the change and evolution that we might be anticipating in terms of that town board money, we've been sharing our experience locally with Scottish Government, UK Government and with a range of partners that are in those discussions. I'm also aware that executive officers are going to be meeting with parties, I think, next week to have some more discussion on that. So certainly we've been taking the opportunity to shape what it looks like as best we can from what we've learned so far in Kilmarnock. And as I say, through the report, that we're keenly awaiting that guidance so that we can think through what the implications are, and clearly we'll be coming back with a paper with more on that. In regards to the events, I would certainly, having attended the recent Kilmarnock Christmas event, agree that it was very well attended. I've seen the evaluation feedback, which will be reported to the Kilmarnock Strategic Group in its first meeting of next year, and to put that forward to the Kilmarnock Strategic Group for their thoughts on the value and ongoing impact that the events within the town can have, and we'll, again, can provide more information to members on any of that once it's flown through the group. In terms of the point around Strand Street, Sturrock Street, and the work that Kevin's going to talk a bit more about in the next paper, I think the focus for from the strategic perspective has been around, as you know, Councillor Boyd, the collective thinking and the joined up delivery that we've spent this year focusing on, from both the kind of strategic oversight and challenge perspective, but also through the programme board of officers that's been established from the operational perspective, being able to manage those interdependencies as best we can. I'm going to pass, with your approval, Provost, to Simon to pick up Councillor Linton's point on the galleon.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, there's been a wide range of proposals brought forward as part of this REBA Stage 1 report from the consultants, and as Councillor Linton has said, that's been presented, and we're really pleased it's had really positive feedback. Working through these proposals just now, they have a range of interventions around about addressing the end-of-life building components and fabric through to repurposing areas to suit changes in customer needs and demand. And as is noted in the report, we'll summarise that and bring that back to members in due course.
That's great. Thanks, guys. Thanks, folks. Councillor Richardson. Jim.
Thanks, Provost. Thanks, Jim. I just want to put in the record before I start this wee bit, and I did try to prompt through the WhatsApp because this wasn't my idea. This was one of my colleagues, Councillor Cowan's idea, and it came from a chat that we basically had at the excellent winter lights switch on. And it was great to hear from Dougie that there was a brilliant crowd. There was a brilliant crowd that evening, and you know, £29 per person going into local retailers, shops, pubs, cafes, coffee shops. Absolutely brilliant. But everybody had a great time. Now, the draw's been made, and there's a brilliant opportunity to have 3 fan zones in the same situation at the cross, middle of the town. Can you imagine it? Saltires everywhere. We opened the tournament against Germany. How many people can fit into King Street and the Cross? Because that would be absolutely packed. The local pubs would get a turn, the local cafes would get a turn. I think the retailers would be right behind it. But I just want to, again, put on the record, that was not my idea. That came out of a conversation that 3 or 4 of us had. And it was Councillor Cowan's idea, and it's a superb idea. And I just think we should follow up on that.
I wouldn't disagree with that. We need some more discussion on that. Come on, Scotland. Councillor McMahon.
Thanks, Provost. Claire, it's about governance for me in this one, about the strategic group. The current setup and going forward, we'd all like to get agreement by consensus, but as we've witnessed today, that's not always possible, and sometimes it would go to a vote. So who currently has voting rights on the current board if it does go to a vote and they can't agree, and going forward, looking at the new board and the guidance that would be coming in, who would have voting rights on that?
The governance of that, Ian, would that be? Sorry to drop you on it. Claire, good.
Thank you, Provost, and through you. In relation to the current Kilmarnock Strategic Group, there are a range of officers around that table who do not hold a vote. The voting members, through the terms of reference that we have established, are the elected members. It would have been the community representation through Celebrate Kilmarnock in its initial stages. We also have the chair of the Kilmarnock Business Association. We have a local third sector provider at that centre stage, a key player in our town centre, and what we also have anticipated for some time now through the Power, Place and Partnerships work that's been ongoing is that when the Kilmarnock-based place partnerships are established, I understand to be around spring of 2024, that each of those 2 groups will be represented on the strategic group and hold a vote. As to the future direction for the UK Fund Town Board, as I say, the guidance is awaited. I can only point you at this time to the prescription that's set out in paragraph 9 of the report, but as I say, that simply relates to the English position, and we await the Scottish guidance to inform what we do here. Thanks.
No, thank you. That's cleared that up. Folks, any further points, questions? It would be really, really good if Historic Scotland could give us some money for that building in Dunlop Street, but we are where we are. Folks, okay, accept the recommendations. Thank you. We're going to item 8 now. And this is over to Kevin for the repurposing of the multi-storey site within Kilmarnock Town Centre. Kevin.
Thank you, Provost. Members, the purpose of this report is to provide Council with an update on the repurposing of the multi-storey car park site, which is aligned to the Kilmarnock strategic vision, and to seek approval for the redetermination of Stirrup Street to include part of the Kilmarnock Green Infinity Loop. The report provides background to the EV hub, cycling mobility hub, retention of car parks front the viaduct, pedestrian links to bus and rail station, the infinity loop and creation of high quality public realm space, historical interpretation and green space. ARA have commissioned significant design works to take these projects forward, these being a consultant commission to develop feasibility and concept details for reprofiling the footprint and surrounding area of the multi-storey, contract documents being prepared for detailed design to introduce a bi-directional cycleway and redetermining Sturrock Street to two-way traffic. Traffic modelling of the town centre has been completed to enable future amendments to traffic flows around the town and support future development, and public consultation is ongoing. All of this work is externally funded by our partners Sustrans. The recommendations are contained in paragraph 2. Happy to take any questions.
Thanks very much, Kevin. Open it out, members. Leader.
Thanks. No, I welcome this, and hopefully it can get move forward at some kind of pace, because we really need this to happen. You know, for years, in terms of, and I'm glad they mentioned introducing some radical road solutions, like the two-way in Sturrock Street. It's something that regularly goes around that one-way system. We often take, go around unnecessarily to make it, to make a relatively small journey. You find yourself having to get right around the one-way system. I know just for where I'm staying just now, I've got to go right around the one-way system. If I'm going to an electrical charge point to go 100 yards, I've got to go right around the one-way system, which is just totally unnecessary. But there's loads of these, and the more accessible we can make the town centre, the better. And I think this goes a long way. And I don't think we should shirk for being a wee bit radical where we need to, because we need to. And I think these proposals are very good. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Boyd.
All for it. Can it happen quick enough? Only one thing, and I know the cost is a problem. That road blocks the Palace Theatre. Even if we can somehow bring the Palace Theatre in, try to disguise the road as such, that'd be a good thing. Traditionally, northwest of the cross, multi-storey site, Sturrock Street was always housing. Town centres need housing, so I think long term we need to go back to that. And while we're at it, appreciate the history of that area. Opposite the Palace Theatre with the town green, that was the drying green for the foregate. Let's get that bit of grass, which is okay. Let's make that a feature as well. So there's a lot that can be done there. The infinity loop going up and linking with the multi-storey site, excellent. So yeah, a lot of potential. Really looking forward to it. I'm probably just a wee bit impatient. I'd like it started tomorrow, but I know we can't.
No, I agree. Yeah, the green would be great. Get some form of cohesion there. Folks, are we okay with the recommendations? Agreed. Thank you very much. We're going to item 9, and this is the Veterans and Armed Forces. This is a progress update. We'll bring in Ian. Thanks, Ian.
Thanks, Provost. Good afternoon, members. So it's a short report, Provost, and it's really for members to note, but we have taken the opportunity in the paper to describe some of the activity that the Council and partners and other agencies do to support our veterans and armed forces community. Of course, a lot of that is led by yourself, Provost, as Armed Forces Champion, supported by Councillor Cogley as Deputy as well. So I wasn't proposing to go through it in any great detail. It is for information. The only other thing I would want to highlight, Provost, is at paragraph 23, and we now have statutory guidance around the covenant duty, which is our specific duty around that support that we provide to armed forces community and veterans, and to reassure Council as well that all of that guidance very much aligns with the work that we have been doing since 2012 when the covenant was introduced. And with those introductory comments, Provost, happy to take any questions. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Ian. Folks, if I could just thank everybody for their support with us. I'm ex-Royal Navy, as you know, senior service, and the change that's happened. There's been difficult decisions. We had Combat Stress, that brilliant charity that was down in Hollybush, that was set up for the people of East Ayrshire. Corporate accounts come in, accountants, and they closed it down and moved to Glasgow. Equally, we had Poppy Scotland in the town centre in Kilmarnock, and it was one of the busiest Poppy Scotland shops for drop-in in the whole of Scotland outside the cities. Again, they shut it down and moved it up to Glasgow. And the other part is about SAFA, that's Soldiers, Sailors and Airmen's Charity, Families Charity. We had a real active cohort here in East Ayrshire. They've all retired and there's nobody taking up that cudgel. So they've moved to Glasgow. There's still a support there. The positives are the Legion has been had a renew. Kilmarnock Legion branch has had a renew, and they're up to over 70 members, but 30 or 40 are really active members, and they engage in a whole host of things. The highlights for this year was the great aspect this time last year of Sandy Ritchie up in Darvel, who was 100 years old, fought in the Second World War, and it was a brilliant day organised by the Legion with a fly past with a couple of trainer jets, and the RAF came down. He was ex-RAF, and it was great to see hundreds of people outside his house, and his daughter was absolutely delighted. She was blown away. And equally, Alec passed away just a couple of months ago, and the amount of Legion and representatives from the armed forces at his funeral was incredible as well. And it was a horrible, stinking wet day, and all of the riders branch of the Legion motorcyclists came down as well, and they get thoroughly soaked. But it just shows you the respect that we've got for our armed forces personnel. There's a couple of guys that I've been dealing with, I'll not say any names, who have got serious PTSD. We're working closely with them, and I've got to pay tribute to our health and social services mental health team, who regularly talk to these guys. Another brilliant story, and he won't mind me saying this, is my pal Billy, who was in Northern Ireland and saw some terrible things. And Billy clearly states, and he'll tell everybody, that he wouldn't be here if it wasn't for his brave hound. And his brave hound is Max, and he's a lovely, lovely dog. And this is a charity, unfortunately, the lassie that set it up called the first dog Broxy, after some park up in Glasgow. But that's by the by. But it's a brilliant charity, and these are dogs that maybe don't make it as a guide dog for the blind, but they retrain them and they become brave hounds for, and Billy says he wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that dog. That dog takes him everywhere. So there's all these things that we get involved in that we don't tell anybody about, because it's no really, it's people's lives we're talking about here. We do all of this stuff through the committee. Councillor Cogley supports me with that as a substitute. There's been a whole, you can see there's a whole host of things there. And there's a lot that isn't in here, the stuff that we do. I've been called out 2 o'clock in the morning to go and see a guy in Hurlford who was really struggling. And I went, because that's what you do. You support people. And I'm not putting my Navy hat on here, but it really is only the veterans that really know what some folk have went through. So I appreciate the support that everybody gives, and hopefully you can accept this paper. Sally, would you like to say a couple of words?
Really just to support what you've said, and thank you very much. And at a recent event that I attended in Edinburgh on your behalf, it's clear the impact that you make, Provost, and people were asking where you were. So thank you for that. And Ian, also for your support. Thank you.
No, Sally, thank you. When I go to these things, I'm always badgering the MOD for more money for our veterans, but there you go. We've got Councillor McFadden. Thanks, John.
I'd like to say I wholeheartedly support this paper and offer a vote of thanks to yourself and everyone else involved for what you do, Provost. I think it's invaluable. I think it's overlooked as well. And I think, thank goodness, there's people out there like yourself and all the rest. Otherwise, there'd be some people really suffering. So on behalf of my group, a huge thank you and support. Thank you.
No, that's very kind. And I kind of thank Peter and Linda, who came out. They're members of the local Legion branch. And we were out all through leading up to Poppy Day. And we were out collecting money. The money's all coming in now. And again, East Ayrshire really punches above its weight in collecting funds for Poppy Scotland Earl Haig Fund. So thanks everyone for that one. Are we happy with the paper? And please, if you've got any issues at all, anything of a military or armed forces, pop into the office and we'll have a coffee, talk about it. Councillor Mabin.
Thank you, Provost. Also for the British Legion, the British Legion is now open to the public. It's not just the veterans, so anyone can join the British Legion and support their efforts. And I was delighted to attend the event along with yourself in Belfield. And there was a new memorial bench unveiled, and the British Legion boys were there, looking very dapper, very smart with their headgear and their medals on. And it was a lovely event.
Yeah, no, Peter's absolutely right. If the Legion know about it, and if anybody knows anybody in your constituencies who were in the armed forces and they unfortunately pass over, the Legion will go, if the family want, and they'll bring a colour party to the celebration of that person's life. So please bear that in mind if you know of any armed forces folk. Right, thanks very much, folks. I'm going on to item 10, and I'm going to introduce another request from the Labour group, but I'll let Kevin introduce that one. This one's East Ayrshire Local Licensing Forum, and it's the appointment of an additional member. So, Julie.
Yes, just the regular report has come up for the updating the membership for the forum, Provost. This time it's to fill the vacancy of the young people, and it's Caleb Lincoln, who's the Vice Chair of the Children and Young Persons Cabinet, for approval. Thanks.
Folks, we okay with this? Yep. Kevin, if you would kindly introduce your paper.
Thanks very much, Provost, and thank you for accommodating us at short notice. Just a request from the Labour group to propose a change on the Buchanan bequest and also on the leisure centre or the Galleon Trust to replace Councillor Jones with Councillor Douglas on both, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, folks. We're okay with that. Can I thank everyone for your efforts through the year? We're going to hopefully a peaceful time. I just encourage everyone to make sure your neighbour's okay. If there's an old buddy in there, just chat the door and say hello in there. And I hope that you get all that you deserve over the festive period. Have a peaceful time and please stay safe. Thank you.